Welcome to our deep dive. Today, we're stepping away from maybe the usual complex debates. We're looking at something incredibly simple, something universal, an experience we all have probably multiple times a day, but maybe rarely notice.
Indeed. There is this moment, so ordinary, really so universal, that we tend to rush through it. Countless times we're often chasing, the big revelations, the loud insights, and in doing that, we overlook these quiet, fleeting instants that, well, they can hold everything.
Okay.
So today, this deep dive is a reflection, not on a theory, not on history, but on a sensation, a raw, immediate feeling we all share. We're inviting you, really, to pause, to maybe feel that little friction in your throat,
Yeah.
and just explore the simple, undeniable state of being truly, purely thirsty.
That premise, it's immediately arresting, I find. Because in a life that feels, engineered for constant speed, constant output, just slowing down to truly notice something we usually spend maybe 10 seconds on, it feels almost like a quiet rebellion.
It can be.
So our mission for you, the listener, isn't about piling on more information, is it? It feels more like taking a shortcut, but a strange kind of shortcut, through attention, radical attention. We want to try and bypass all that mental noise, find those aha moments hidden right there, in plain sight, the kind of deep knowledge your body holds, but maybe your distracted mind just refuses to register.
Exactly. And the vehicle for this journey,
Yeah.
let's call it a doorway, strange and powerful, is water. Just water.
Yeah.
But we need to strip away its identity for a moment. Not H2O, not a commodity you buy. We focus on it as a pure experience, and maybe counterintuitively, we start with the absence of it.
Absence.
Yes, the raw, unmediated sensation of lack. Imagine maybe walking for hours, the air is hot, dry, your throat starts tightening with every breath, even shallow ones. And notice what happens to your thoughts, your usual thoughts, that constant narrator worrying about yesterday, planning tomorrow. They start to get sin, don't they? Frayed around the edges, what's left? What remains is just a pure, physical, nonverbal statement.
Right. So we're looking at drinking water not just as, the biological reflex we need to survive, not just hydration, but as a deliberate path. A path to some kind of insight.
A profound form, perhaps.
We're asking this incredibly mundane human action, just taking a sip, to somehow yield a universal truth. Is that fair?
That is precisely the invitation. So let's begin right there, detailing that state. True, unmediated thirst. When the body genuinely cries out for water, everything abstract. It just vanishes instantly.
Abstract.
Like your financial worries, or the memory of something someone said, tomorrow's schedule. All of it just collapses. All that exists in that moment is the raw feeling, the feeling of lack. And this feeling, if you stay with it at its deepest level, it's not actually suffering, not in the usual sense. It's not mere inconvenience.
Okay, but then what is it? Because if it's not suffering, our usual reaction is to see it as a fault, right? A problem, a deficiency we need to fix quickly so we can get back to the important stuff, the thinking.
But what if it is the important stuff? What if it is presence? But through absence, think about it. It's the body speaking, a language far older than our words. And it demands immediate high-fidelity perception. You have to feel it. And here's the paradox, hidden right there in the ordinary.
Which is?
Without that dry ache, that absence, the arrival of presence, the coolness, the wetness, the relief, it wouldn't have the same depth, would it? It has no real context, no meaning. Think about it. Without longing, love can become just habit. Without real hunger, food is just fuel we consume. It's thirst. Maybe it isn't a fault at all. Maybe it's grace.
Grace. That really shifts the frame, doesn't it? Because we are so conditioned to label it instantly, inconvenience, or we interpret it through data. We talk about hydration levels, measuring fluid intake, ounces per day.
Yes. We substitute the raw, visceral feeling with a clinical label, a concept. And we think we've captured the experience, but really we've just managed to interpret it away. We've distanced ourselves from the direct knowing.
We replace direct experience with interpretation.
And that's exactly where we miss maybe the sacred nature of the moment. Imagine someone who's truly pushed their limits, a marathon runner hitting the wall, or maybe a traveler coming out of a long, dry crossing. For them, that next sip isn't routine, is it? It's like the arrival of the world itself. And it arrives with such intensity because of the stark absence that came before. The lack actually created the space for reverence.
Okay, so the lack creates the reverence, and that brings us towards that crucial point, the transition, the moment of anticipation, when the vessel, the glass, the bottle, the cup is finally lifted. If the thirst has been really genuine, you're saying the action itself has to change.
Watch the hand. Just observe it closely next time you're truly thirsty. If the need has been honest, deep, the hand might tremble, just slightly. And maybe it's not from physical weakness. Maybe it's from an attention so total, and anticipation so deep
Right.
that it borders on, well, reverence.
The reverence.
It signals the non-rational significance of what's about to happen. You're preparing to receive something elemental.
Fundamental.
I understand the reference in that extreme example, the desert traveler, but I have to push back a bit on the idealism for, everyday life. For most of us, most of the time, the act is rushed. We gulp water between meetings, staring at a screen. We're rarely that thirsty. How can the act maintain this reverence when the glass is always right there, within reach?
But the reverence is always available. It's always potentially there. But it does require that conscious pause. Even when the glass is near, we have to choose, just for a second, to let the true lack register, however brief it might be. If you just slow down, consciously allow the dryness, even a little, to demand your total attention, the quality of the anticipation shifts instantly, and then the action is completed.
The first gulp, swallowed.
Yes. Now focus entirely on what follows, the silence. But this silence, it's not just the absence of the sound of swallowing. That mechanical sound stops, yes, but it's more. It's the profound presence of stillness.
Stillness.
The mind, just for an instant, it stops its frantic commentary. It's satisfied. It has nothing to plan right then, nothing to critique, nothing to strive for. It's fulfilled. And for that crucial breath, maybe 2 breaths, you cease being a person with a job title, a history of failures, a list of problems. You are simply uncomplicatedly alive.
And that's the payoff, isn't it, of that total attention, that brief dissolving of the self, the me that carries all the worry.
The most ordinary act, just quenching a simple need, becomes sacred. If it's performed with that degree of total unfiltered attention, it's like a little portal back to yourself, back to the real. So now we move into perhaps the most radical phase of this simple experience. The instant the water actually touches the tongue, begins its journey inward. This is where let's say the physics of awareness, they shift completely.
How so?
Time. It doesn't just slow down like in a flow state people talk about. It feels more like time disappears.
Entirely.
Okay, hang on. You're describing a kind of complete temporal collapse. I mean, many spiritual traditions talk about that state, maybe enlightenment, but often is something achieved after years of really rigorous practice. Yet you're suggesting it happens almost naturally, chemically even, just by drinking water.
It happens instantly, I think, because the need is so pure and the relief is so absolute in that moment. When the water arrives, the past thirst, poof, it ceases to exist, it's gone. And the need to plan the future drink, the next sip, is also momentarily extinguished. There's only this cool rush spreading through the cells. The individual isn't just drinking water anymore, they are the drinking.
The subject and object merge.
Yes, the thirst and the quenching, the void and the fullness, they become fused into a single indivisible now. It's profound physiology, yes, but it's also immediate, undeniable insight, happening right down at the cellular level.
This idea of just this, you hear it in Zen, right? Just walking, just sitting, just this. But applying it to the way we actually live, especially now.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. We rarely just drink, do we? We gulp. We multitask. Our attention is split. We're scrolling, we're talking, planning the next thing while the water goes down. So we consume the water, we hydrate the body maybe. But we fail completely to receive the experience. Not in that high fidelity way you're describing. That deeper thirst. The soul's thirst for presence. It stays unaddressed.
Because that first sip, after real thirst, it simply cannot tolerate distraction. It demands your entire being.
Yeah.
And in that demand, it offers this gift, the gift of returning you wholly to the present moment.
Yeah.
Just for an instant. And this uncompromising demand, this is what gives rise to the first koan that we can explore today.
A paradox.
Hidden in plain sight.
Okay. That code.
What is the sound of one hand drinking water?
That's a perfect Zen tool, isn't it? A question designed to just stop the thinking mind, dead in its tracks. It's a riddle you can't solve with logic. For listeners who maybe haven't encountered this idea before, can you just quickly clarify what a koan does?
Yes, certainly. A koan isn't really a riddle to test your cleverness or your knowledge. It's more like a spiritual tool, a sort of hammer, perhaps.
Yeah.
Designed to break your reliance on rational thought. The mind loves to solve problems, figure things out logically. A koan presents a problem that is inherently nonsensical, paradoxical. It forces the intellect to just give up, to surrender. And in that surrender, it allows a deeper, more intuitive understanding to arise from the silence behind the thoughts.
Okay, so if we take that non-intellectual hammer to this question, the sound of one hand drinking, where does it lead?
Stay with the feeling, not the thought. Your hand lifts the glass. Your lips part. The water flows in. Now, if there's no mental commentary, If there's no you labeling the action thinking I am drinking, then who is the agent? Who is drinking? Is it the you with the bank account and the worries and the personal history? Or is it
Maybe.
life itself? The energy, the cells, the stream, the rain, just drinking through you. The more ordinary the act seems, drinking, washing dishes, sweeping the floor, the more powerfully it can reveal this extraordinary nature of awareness, where those hard boundaries we usually feel between me and the world, they start to soften, maybe even dissolve.
That really grounds the whole idea of Zen then. It pulls it down from some lofty, abstract mountaintop and puts it right here, in the kitchen sink, in the most relatable, practical tasks. It reminds me of that classic story, the student who's seeking enlightenment. Travels for months, years maybe.
Yes, seeking the great master, expecting some complex teaching, some secret scroll.
Right, and he finally arrives, breathless, finds the master.
And the master is just washing his bowl after breakfast. The water's dripping onto the stone floor, nothing dramatic.
And the student, all eager, asks for the path, the secret, the final teaching.
And the master just looks up and replies with that almost infuriating simplicity. Have you eaten your rice?
Yes. And the student, totally confused by this mundane question, says, yes, master.
And the master's only instruction, then wash your bowl.
Exactly, that's it.
No grand scripture, no secret rituals, no complex philosophy needed in that moment, just a bowl, just water, just now. The entire teaching, the whole path to liberation, potentially contained right there in that one unavoidable mundane task, if it's executed with total attention.
So we have to keep updating the teaching, don't we? For our specific time, for our specific distractions, we need to pose the contemporary Koberon for your immediate life, right now. What is enlightenment when the kettle boils? When your phone buzzes again, insistently? When your throat feels dry and you reach for the tap? It's interesting because we tend to think of presence or mindfulness as this difficult muscle we have to build, or like a foreign language we have to learn through really dedicated, strenuous effort. But the wisdom you're pointing to suggests it's not something to be built or cultivated like that. It's more like something to be uncovered. It's what remains when all the mental clutter, the distraction, the endless commentary, when that finally falls away.
And that is precisely why the act of simple total attention is so profoundly radical, especially today, in modern life. Think about it. A world of infinite choices streaming at you, constant notifications demanding your focus, highly curated realities online. In that context, to stop and to do only one thing, to simply sip water, without checking your screen, without planning your next sentence, without immediately filtering the raw sensation through a mental label. That act becomes both a kind of political rebellion and a profound act of personal freedom.
Rebellion? How so? Rebellion against what?
Rebellion against the economy of distraction, perhaps. Our culture is increasingly built on encouraging us, even rewarding us, for splitting our attention, consuming information, media, even food, all simultaneously. It values breadth over depth, speed over presence.
Right. And when we refuse that contract, even for a moment, when we choose to dedicate our full, available, high-fidelity awareness to a single fleeting second, like a sip of water, we are, in a small way, challenging that entire architecture, the architecture of globalized distraction.
And modern life has built these elaborate, very seductive layers of abstraction. They pull us further and further away from direct, unmediated experience. Think about how we interact with technology, for example. We rarely feel the pure, sharp ache of hunger anymore. Instead, maybe an app tells us it's time to eat, or we register a low blood sugar reading as an inconvenience that needs fixing.
Or we don't just taste water, we consume optimized hydration solution.
Exactly, that's the trap. We replace the raw, living data streaming from our bodies with a sanitized interpretation, a concept. A simple action like going for a walk becomes closing my rings on a fitness tracker.
And we rely on the external metric, the abstraction, rather than the internal sensation. The feeling of feet on the ground, the rhythm of breath, the air on the skin. We slap a label on the feeling thirsty, hungry, tired, and then we think we've understood it. We think we're done with it. And we close the door on the genuine, unfiltered sensation itself.
But that first sip, after real thirst, it just violently bypasses all that abstraction. It cuts right through. It is raw data, unfiltered, unmediated. The water doesn't care about your to-do list or your hydration goals on your app. It doesn't ask you to believe in any philosophy. It simply is. And in its raw simplicity, it invites you, the listener, to simply be too, just for that instant. It restores primary awareness.
So the glass of water, held in the hand, it becomes a kind of mirror.
Exactly, a mirror, showing us how truly starved we've become. Not necessarily for liquid, though perhaps that too, but starved for this kind of direct, unmediated presence itself, that silence that rushes in after the sip, that deep physiological sigh of relief. That's the moment the body confesses the truth of that starvation. The great difficulty, however, it begins right there. The moment you recognize the value of this deep attention, you become aware, oh, I'm missing my life, I'm rushing through everything. And immediately the ego, the I, steps in and says, right, I must practice this perfectly now.
Yeah, I can feel that impulse.
There's a modern day insight that really captures this tension beautifully. Someone said, I don't meditate to escape the world. I meditate to remember how to drink my coffee.
That's great, but that maxim, how you do anything is how you do everything. While it's motivating, it also puts on incredible pressure, doesn't it? If I fail at mindful drinking, if I gulp my water while checking my phone, does that mean I'm somehow training myself to fail at my whole life? This radical attention, it starts to sound exhausting. If I have to apply this level of reverence to every single action-checking email, brushing teeth, drinking water, doesn't that just create a new kind of performance anxiety? A new, subtle layer of mental distraction about doing presence correctly?
That pressure, that feeling of potential exhaustion, that is exactly the trap, because here we bump right into the profound paradox of trying to be mindful. The very moment you decide consciously, okay, I will be perfectly present with my next sip, the you who's making that decision, that's already a thought, isn't it? It's a ripple on the surface. A subtle separation has already occurred. It's sometimes called a ghost chasing a ghost.
So the thought about being present actually prevents presence. It's like a self-canceling thing. I can literally hear the internal monologue. Okay, focus on the glass, feel the water. Am I focusing hard enough? Am I really present? Oh wait, I just thought about focusing. Now I'm distracted by thinking about not being distracted. We've just added another layer. The layer of self-monitoring. Judging our performance.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You're watching yourself watch the water. And that very separation, that observer stance, ensures that true presence, which is seamless, boundaryless, cannot be grasped or achieved through effort. True presence isn't something you achieve, it's something that's recognized. It's more like a quiet surrender, a letting go into the utter simplicity of what is already happening. The deepest teaching of that first sip might be that you only need to stop forgetting that fundamentally you already are mindful. Awareness is already here. You're not striving for some future state of perfection. You're simply noticing this state right now without adding judgment.
Okay, but let's be real about human consciousness. Forgetfulness, drifting, rushing. It's constant. It's the baseline for many of us. We forget, we rush. We drift instantly into worry or memory or planning the next moment. So given that this failure to maintain perfect presence is basically unavoidable, what's the practical advice? What do you do when you inevitably miss the moment? Rush the sip. Find yourself lost in thought again.
That forgetting, it's not failure, it's just the engine of the path. It's part of the process. The real practice isn't about striving for some unbroken state of perfect presence that's maybe unattainable and creates pressure. The real practice, the skill to cultivate, is the gentle return.
Gentle return.
Yes. You don't scold yourself for drifting. Oh, I failed again. That just adds another layer of judgmental thought, more noise. You simply notice the distraction. Thinking. You acknowledge it, maybe even with a little kindness, and then without fanfare, without any sense of achievement or failure, you gently return. You bring your attention back to the breath, to the feeling of your feet on the floor, or in this case, to the weight of the glass, the coolness of the next sip.
So the dry throat itself, the feeling of lack, the distraction, that becomes the sacred opportunity, the reminder. It's the friction that kind of nudges the attention back.
It's what makes the water matter. It's the contrast. And that constant, gentle returning, without striving, without self-reproach, that is the practice. That allows you, moment by moment, to touch eternity. Eternity isn't some distant, faraway paradise we earn through perfect practice. It's the very texture of this moment, right now, accessible whenever you stop desperately reaching for the next one. We spend so much of our lives chasing a feeling of fullness, don't we? External fullness, more love, more success, more security, more certainty. Yet perhaps the greatest fullness, the deepest satisfaction arrives not through acquiring more, but when we simply stop resisting what is. Right now, that total, satisfying first sip, it provides immediate, undeniable evidence for this possibility. It proves, in the body, now is drinkable.
Right, it was drinkable.
If now is drinkable, then we have to ask the final, maybe existential implication. Is now also completely livable in the same total way? What does it really mean when that boundary between inside the self, the thirst, and outside the water, the world, what does it mean when it dissolves, even for an instant, in that moment of quenching? It means we must introduce the final, maybe the ultimate koan. This one isn't just about water. It's about ultimate identity, about the end of separation itself. It goes something like this. How can the drop know the ocean until it stops trying to be a drop?
So the drop. The individual self, the me, with my separate story and my small name and my personal worries, it has to let go of its need to be defined by its separateness in order to truly experience the whole, the ocean.
The ultimate realization, perhaps, is that you are not separate from life. You are life. Quenching itself through this form, the goal isn't even for you to drink the water mindfully. The deeper invitation is to surrender the effort of you doing the drinking at all. The goal is to let the water drink you. Because when the self and the sip become truly one, there's no longer you receiving grace. There's only grace receiving itself. And this realization, even a glimpse of it, can transform the mundane world instantly.
It suggests we've been walking past ordinary miracles every single day, simply because we were looking too hard for the spectacular ones, the big fireworks.
Precisely. Consider the subtle things. The warm steam rising almost invisibly from a cup of tea, or the dense, cool weight and specific texture of a wooden doorknob in your palm as you grasp it, or just the simple sound of your own breath when the room falls silent and you allow yourself to be still for a moment. These aren't just background noise. They're not insignificant details. They're all thresholds, microportals, doorways where everything, the entire universe, shimmers with presence. If you cross them with total, gentle attention, Zen doesn't ask you to transcend the mundane to escape it. It asks you to dive into it, so deeply that the mundane itself becomes luminous.
So the entire practice then, the distillation of this whole journey we've been exploring, it's not really about doing it right or achieving some special spiritual state. It's just about being there.
Being there, fully. Feel the dryness fully. Feel the longing, the anticipation intensely. And then just let the silence that follows the swallow. Let that speak. Let it tell the undeniable truth of your being right now. Hashtag outro. So as we draw this deep dive towards a close, we'd like to leave you with a final provocative thought, maybe just a question, something to carry with you through your day, perhaps through your week.
What if every moment is a first sip?
Think about that. Not just water, but the first conscious breath of morning air when you wake up. The first note of a bird singing outside your window. The very first thought that arises upon truly waking. What if each experience, however small, however mundane, is an opportunity to drink life directly?
Fully.
Without the filter of your analysis, your judgment, your commentary.
Let that question just live in you for a while. Allow it to maybe subtly unsettle your routines, make the ordinary strange and new again, without feeling the pressure to find a definitive intellectual answer. Just let it resonate.
And the next time you find yourself genuinely thirsty, pause. Just for a beat. Don't rush. Don't drink like a person with a history and a future, already racing toward the next task. See if you can drink it like the universe, finally, joyfully quenching itself.
Because what this kind of radical attention ultimately delivers, it isn't some grand cosmic explosion usually. It's often just a quiet, simple, undeniable knowing, whispered in the stillness of the body, the feeling that this is enough.